This is the best day it's been in a long time. And this is what I get. Well, shit. Oh well. It's a good thing these guys let me park here. Those poor bastards. Those poor bastards. Oh yeah, got some new stickers. You saw that. You saw that shit, didn't ya? Yeah. Ah, this fucking helmet doesn't let me do what I want it to do. Alright. Today, I reviewed this bike. Good day, my pretties. How are y'all going? What are y'all doing? What am I doing? I'm bringing you another commuter vlog. Oh yes, that's right. Going to work. And while I'm here, I think it's about time that I told you about my bike. I've owned it for about 8 months now, so I think it's time, high time, give it a bit of a review for you guys. So anybody who wants to buy one can know what they're in for. I'll start with the engine. It's a 471cc, so it's part of the 500 class. It goes like a 500. It's very smooth, very low revving, high torque at the low range, so you don't need to rev the tights off it. It just pulls from any gear and any rev. It's so easy and smooth, and that smoothness, however, comes at a comes with a caveat. It doesn't do smoothness too well up past about 5,000 RPM. Once you get past that, this thing vibrates like a lonely, desperate housewife whose gardener just went overseas. Yes, indeed. She likes to vibrate. That's why the foot pegs are rubber. It's kinda cheapish. But that comes with the twin, inline twin kind of sacrifice you have to make there. Coppers. It's a city bike. It's a loner city bike. It's not a race bred, and it doesn't have the same smoothness that a V-twin or a 4-cylinder would, or even a 3 for that matter. Close up the chin vent just to cancel out some of the wind noise. Okay, so that was the engine. That was the engine. Let's cover the gearbox. The gearbox, Honda smooth, and of course geared for the city. You can do 6th gear, 50 k's an hour, as I'm doing right now, and it just cruises nicely. Doesn't pull too hard, too fast in 6th gear, but you can go up a hill in it relatively comfortable without it making too much of a complaint. Shifting, the clutch is really smooth and easy. It's not as light as the 250, but it'll do the job very quickly. You can adjust to it if you're a little bit limp-wristed, like I once was. You can adjust to it. It's not a deal breaker. And of course, I've got the foldable, adjustable, coloured, fancy levers on, so that adjusts. That adds a little bit of customizability there. You can adjust the friction point is way up front. By that I mean it's very far forward, which is good for really fast gear changes. Click, 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 click. You don't have to pull it all the way in. If you've got long fingers, that benefits you. That you can benefit from that. yeah, that's the gearbox. Let's see what's next. Let's go for the build quality. You know, switches are all fairly solid, all waterproofed and weatherproofed and clearly labelled and big, and you'll notice this little thing here. That is a horn where the indicators usually are on other bikes. Honda just likes to put that one in there for this little guy. Bit of a trolley move, I reckon, bit of a trolley move. The grips are pretty grippy. It's not a real rubber, it's plastic, but it's very, very, very good for traction, even in the wet. I mean, driving in the wet, you can still grip these. Hold on, but hold on. You won't be holding on for dear life. This isn't a very powerful bike, but it's good. It's decent quality. The mirrors unadjustable. That I do not like. I would like to be able to fold them. Well, actually, they are adjustable. You can adjust them. You just can't fold them in. That's what I meant. That's acceptable of the quality of this bike. I've got a aftermarket double bubble windshield there just to keep some of the wind noise down. The old one, the stock one, is fairly decent, but this one I don't actually notice any different. The handlebars, you'll notice, are really high up, so it's super comfortable for the commute. I was thinking Awesome Possum put clip-ons that are much lower. Well, actually, no, that's not right. He put these ones below the triple tree so that they look a little bit more hunched over, and that was a good idea. I liked it. I have not done that yet, though. I don't know if I should. Looking down at the paint is dirty, of course, because I haven't washed it. But the paint is spot on. This was a spotless, well-painted bike. Honda took its time to make things right, to get it right, with a good quality paintwork. The buttons on the dash, now the dashboard, that's one thing I definitely want to praise. All digital, very clear, very easy to read, even in the sunniest of conditions. And it has a few very useful features like fuel economy, trip A and trip B, so you can time between services on B and time between trips between fuel ups with A. That's what I do. There's a clock, there's a fuel gauge, there's no gear shift position indicator majigger, but that's okay. You can generally, once you've used it enough, you can know what gear you're in just by knowing what revs you are and what speed. I forgot how to English. And yeah, it's got standard immobilization, so that's also useful. Why did I purchase the bike? I wanted something with a little bit of punch. I'm on the lambs restriction, so of course I've got to be within reasonable performance for that category. I don't want to get bored of a bike too fast. That was another reason why I picked the larger engine over the, say, the 125s or the 250s. I was so close to buying a CB400 just because of that four-cylinder scream. That four-cylinder scream is to die for. But this one seemed alright. It was a very quiet bike. The exhaust certainly didn't scream when I bought it. It's got a nice bark to it now that I've put on the aftermarket pipe. You'll see that in my first ever video. Why did I buy it? Honda reliability. It's a brand new kind of bike. This was made 2013 October, so it's a year and a bit old now. And I've owned it for the 9,000. I've owned it for 9,000 of the 10,000 kilometers that that it's got. So far so good, and it hasn't missed a beat. The service was pretty cheap. That first service. There was a recall for one of the bolts in the engine crankcase. That was free, of course, because it was a recall. No complaints there. Oh yes, I'll finish this corner, then I'll explain the suspension, what I don't like about it. The suspension is probably the worst point of this bike. The suspension and then the brakes. The front forks, non-adjustable, buttery soft. Very easily overwhelmed, and I would say not dangerous, but definitely not confidence inspiring. The back shock is acceptable. I would say I'd put it as adequate. It's definitely firm like a sport bike, and it doesn't wiggle around much on bumps. It's got a very firm feel. But it's not track ready, not at all, not in the least track ready. I wouldn't put this on a track. Then there's the brakes. The front brake, this is the no ABS version, by the way. So the front brake, if you lock that up, you're done for if you don't save it too quickly, if you can't save it in time. Brakes, it's a bit numb at first, and then when you put more pressure on, it stops with confidence, pulls up really well. It doesn't lend to being jammed on very tightly, so if you're in a panic situation and you jam it on, you'll jam it on and then you'll have to squeeze a bit harder to make it stop, so that helps out with the non-locking upness, as they say. The rear brake is great for the city. It's pretty powerful. Saying that, it locks up pretty quick. I've locked it up once or twice. Not on purpose. Not at all on purpose. But yeah, for city riding you can just coast around and use the back brake all the time. Not all the time, but you know what I mean, At traffic lights you can just coast up to the traffic light and then stop with your back brake. No need to really use the front brake for much at all. I know certainly for this commute that I'm taking on right now, I don't use the front brake very much. That's pretty much it, really. It's heavy, so doesn't impress with the 0 to 100 figures, but it does a great job with the fuel economy for a 500, despite the weight. I just like it. You know, you buy your bikes, you buy what you want, and then think about what you need. Is that right? Can I say that? Because you want something that moves you inside, not just something that moves you on the outside. And while this bike may be a bit bland compared to, say, the Super 4 with its VTEC and its screaming exhaust, it's standard. It's a fair sport bike. You know, you can take it on twisties and it's quite rewarding. It'll keep up if you're a good rider. It'll give you some fun. And on the highway, it's loving it. It eats up the miles. No more than about 3.3 kilometers, 3.3 liters to 100 k's. Just does a good job. It's a good all-round bike. got me out of trouble, the torque. Torque, you want something to get that gets you out of trouble. If you find yourself in it, in traffic situations. The headlight's pretty good too, although when you're turning you can't see around corners in the dark. That's a bit worrying. I think I've said most of what I wanted to say, really. If I realise that I've forgotten something, I'll just add it in afterwards. In text, I guess. You guys like reading, right? Yeah? Right? You guys like my reading? No snarky little texts. I like it. I like putting them in for you. No problem for me. Doing that for you, if it gets the point across. Damn. Oh, but yeah. That'll be the review of the CBR500 single R. Like this video if you like to like videos you like. And I will see you next time. Don't tell me. Guys? Am I just not going to get served?